People will get used to it.
Yeah, but we should be building blocks, not hearts.
Charity.
Not everything's going to have 4 syllables.
We'll make it.
Okay.
We'll give it a Kellyism.
Charity.
Hi, welcome to Enter the Bunker, where we launch you into thriving. Each week we talk about a different virtue that can be used as a building brick to build your own personal bunkers. We share personal stories, as well as tips and tricks to help you thrive instead of survive. So sit down, relax, and enter the bunker.
All right. So this week's building brick is charity.
Charity.
The meaning of charity is a giving heart, a generous way of viewing others and caring for their needs.
Yes.
So we have some quotes. There's quite a few here. We won't have to go through all of them. So let's start off with one of the quotes that doesn't really, not that it doesn't make sense to me, but.
Let's go through them all.
Okay.
And then they can edit it out if they want to.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yay!
Editors. Okay. So first quote today is, "We rise by lifting others." That's by Robert G. Ingersoll, an American lawyer, writer, orator during the golden age of free thought.
Nice.
Whatever that is. Second quote, "It's not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving." Mother Teresa. "No one has ever become poor by giving." Anne Frank. "There is no better exercise than reaching the heart and elevating people." John Andrew Holmes, an American politician. "No one is useless in this world who lightens the burdens of another." Charles Dickens. And finally, "Charity and love are the same. With charity, you give love. So don't give money, but reach out your hand instead." Mother Teresa.
Wow.
Which one touches your soul?
So, I mean, we rise by lifting others, I think is probably the most apt, because when you think about just charity in general, it's all about giving to the needs of others, right? And the idea of that is simply to just be selfless, right? And that's something to aspire to, because naturally people tend not to be that way if it's all about just like looking at themselves, right?
Right.
So it's about having generosity, and the term charity is used in a lot of different ways. And I think that even today we've got, there's charities that are out there that are looking to just take money, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's how people perceive charity. It's like, okay, well, I gave money to a charity, so that's it. I'm charitable.
Yeah.
Right. But it's really about how we treat other people and how we give to others in a generous way. That's being charitable. That's actually giving charity of yourself, right? And today, today, a lot of people just don't even think about that. They think it's all about just, there's these charities out. If you say charity to somebody, they immediately think, that's an organization that goes out trying to get money from people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that we rise by lifting others really is probably the best quote, and that's probably the one that you didn't like. Is that the one?
No, it was Mother Teresa's second one.
Mother Teresa's. Which one was that?
Charity and love are the same. With charity, you give love. So don't just give money, but reach out your hand instead.
Okay.
So I guess, I don't know. I feel like I just don't like how it says, so don't just give money. Because if that's how somebody can be charitable, then I think they can do that. So I don't like how it's like just singling that aspect out, I guess.
Do you think that charity is love?
Do I think that charity is love?
Yeah, that's what Mother Teresa's saying. Yeah.
I guess it's a way to show love. I don't think they're the same.
You don't think they're the same?
No. I think they're two different things.
How are they different?
Well, they have two different definitions, so.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, if they were the same, they'd have the same name. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So she says with charity you would give love,
Right.
right? So so don't give money, give love, and that is charity.
Yeah.
Versus what a lot of people would think about charity, which I just talked about, was
Yeah.
give money and that's charity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The way you should really be giving is love.
Love or your time?
Well, giving time is an act of love,
Yeah.
right? So in the end, like I think what Mother Teresa is saying here is pretty adept to is very poignant too. I think that she's saying you give love
Yeah.
and that is an act of charity.
Yes.
Just giving things to people isn't necessarily an act of charity.
Right.
Although, you know, kind of like there's generosity and things like this, but
Yeah.
that's being done out of love. So I think a lot of the charity aspect has to do with our attitude towards it. It's not necessarily the act itself.
Yeah.
While the act is important,
Yeah.
it also matters what's behind it.
What's
There has
put into
what is your
it.
motivation,
Yes.
right? Sort of thing. So I think that because I mean, how many
I like
times have you
that,
heard
the motivation towards
Yeah, how many
it.
times have you heard the story? I mean, like here's what's that cartoon? The Lorax.
Lorax?
Have you seen the movie
Yes.
The Lorax?
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those animated
Yeah.
cartoons, right? It's about
I
the
love
tree,
it, yeah.
about the trees. It's good, right?
Yeah.
So, so there's this one part where they're singing that song, "How Bad Can I Be?" Remember that song?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it says like, you know, a portion of proceeds goes to charity, right?
Yeah.
And what's happening is that he's taking the money and putting it and giving it to the charity, and the charity, of course, is his uncle,
Yeah.
who is like, ha ha ha, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So,
Taking the money.
and that tends to be, and so right there is the motivation,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't about really giving to charity or helping. It's just like it looks like you're being charitable,
Yeah.
right? And this happens so much in the corporate world. Like
Yeah.
I mean, because they have to be corporate responsible, like show corporate responsibility, and so they look for like things that they can support. Oftentimes, these things they support are actually offshoots that actually have some kind of vested interest in what they do,
Yeah.
right? So like the people behind, so like try to think of something that people don't like right now. Say like an oil company, right?
Yeah.
Would support a fact check information organization
Right.
about green energy,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And they're like the ones that are like 90% of the contributors to that organization. Why? Because then when somebody goes to look for something about oil
Yeah.
and they go, well, let me just fact check this, and this organization comes out and says all these things that are actually positive
About oil.
about oil,
Yeah.
right? So it looks like they were really charitable, giving to this, like, oh, let's make sure that we're supporting the environment, like we're being responsible to the environment. This happens
But really,
all the time.
It's all just behind closed doors.
Yeah. So the motivation behind that
Yeah.
is obviously not love,
No.
right?
It's to gain something for themselves.
And it's the money.
Yeah. Selfishness.
Yeah. So it's fake charity, and unfortunately, it's really hard to see these days. I mean, it's there if you really look for it, but the perception of it is just so prevalent
Yeah.
that it's easy for people to get fooled by it.
Right.
So charity, though, in terms of giving love to others, so like if there was an organization that was actually out there to like really help the environment, that its funding actually came from people who cared about the environment, then that is an actual charity, and the people who are contributing to that are doing that out of love,
Out of their heart and
right?
Yeah.
Because they really care about what's happening,
Yeah.
right? So I think that
Okay.
when it comes to what Robert said, though, like Robert G. Ingersoll.
Ingersoll.
Let's do that over again. So when it comes to what Robert G. Ingersoll said,
Yeah.
we rise by lifting others. Again, that has to be an act of love, where we're constantly like, if we're giving to somebody, it's because we want to rise them up. I also like the saying, "I'm looking for a hand up, not a handout."
Right.
You ever heard that saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from,
I feel like
but
I've heard it from
that's
you.
the idea of charity too.
Yeah.
Like some people think charity is like handouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But charity really is a hand up,
Yeah.
right? Where you're actually where you're
Helping.
lifting people up,
Yeah.
right? And that's what and so what Robert G. Ingersoll's quote is,
Yeah.
wish that was an easier name,
Yeah.
is really speaking to that.
Yes.
Is that when we do something that's charitable, it's really to help raise people up, because sometimes even, I mean, I'm sure it's very sincere, and I'm sure that they're coming from a good place, but sometimes people just don't even know what to do,
Right.
you know, to actually be charitable. They might actually be doing something generous and they think they're helping, but they're not. right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes that's what happens too. But I don't think you lose either way. Like for the person who's doing it,
Right. You're going to feel good.
yeah, you get that giving heart feeling.
Yeah.
But how effective that is to the other person who's receiving that charity is another question.
Right. My favorite, this kind of actually is going into like my favorite quote out of them here, which is, there's no better exercise than reaching the heart and elevating people. So that's what you're saying about giving love, and you have to use your heart. So your heart is like reaching there. So that's why I kind of brought that one up too, because that one was my favorite, but I didn't really know why. But now it's more understanding to me for sure.
Very good. Hopefully it's more understanding to others listening so that they know how to build this building brick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So some information about charity. Also, before we get into this, you had mentioned whenever somebody thinks of charity, they think of like giving money. Like
Yep.
That's pretty much what you mentioned. Whenever I think of charity, I actually think of like Hercules and like the charity thing that they ride. What's that thing called?
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
A Cherokee?
No, that's a chariot.
A chariot. Okay. I knew it wasn't like right, but I'm like, that's actually what comes to my mind when I say the word charity. I think of,
You think of a chariot.
yeah.
What happened to you in your childhood?
I don't know. I
Oh,
watched
boy.
Hercules too much, maybe.
Maybe.
All right. So, or I blame it on my English teachers, one or the other.
Take responsibility for yourself, Kelly.
Okay,
This is
okay.
all on you.
All right, some information on charity. A charity can come in many forms, from leading a helping hand to a neighbor with a project, to donation of clothes and needed items, to the money, and not the least of which time. Yeah. If you ever put people's needs ahead of your own, or at least at the same level, that is going to provide you with a giving nature. It will allow you to see a need in someone or the community and taking action to address the need. Being charitable isn't always just about money. The act of charity is an act of love, exactly what you were just saying. Some of the best charity you can provide doesn't involve money at all. Being an ear for someone to talk, visiting the elderly who don't have anybody else, volunteering to clean up litter at a park. And all of these acts of charity do not involve money. When it comes to making the world a better place, pay it forward with charity. It can be the world to someone.
There you go.
Yeah. I just can't get chariot out of my head now.
Oh boy, we're gonna have to do some therapy here. Yep.
So actually, I have been going through a lot of like old stuff of mine and getting rid of a lot. Just stuff that I think I take after my parents sometimes when it comes to hoarding. So I have been getting rid of some stuff. And we have a donation box kind of at the end of the road here at the bunker.
Yep.
And I put 2 bags in that yesterday. So I was being charitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff is like kids' clothes and like kitchen items. So that's stuff that people can use all the time too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff you kind of have to think, is this something I can give to charity, or is this something that needs to go in the garbage? Because is it going to be useful to somebody and I
Yeah.
just want to get rid of it and put it in a charity box? No. I mean, I did think of that a couple times,
Yeah.
but then I'm like, no, that's garbage. That's garbage. But the stuff that I could give away, I gave away because I don't have any use for it, and I want somebody else to be able to use it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everybody, I even think back to like the first time we received clothes from somebody else
Yeah.
for our first son,
Yeah.
right? And we were just like so appreciative.
Yes.
And like now it's just like we're giving away tons more
Yeah.
than we ever received from others. So again, it's just like lifting up even further.
Right. Actually, so with like a lot, because I've always been one to give away stuff too. Like, I know a lot of people sell stuff on like Facebook Marketplace and all that stuff, and Kijiji or wherever they sell stuff. But like, that takes up a lot of time. And if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. I'm not bashing that thing or anything. But to give something away, I've had instances where I've given stuff away and then you see that stuff posted for sale.
No way.
And it kind of makes you feel a little sour, but in the end, maybe they used that item for a little bit, realized it wasn't for them, and maybe they're hard up for money. So either way, I was still charitable, whether they made money off that or they used it. So that's what I kind of had to think of it. But it kind of peeved me off a little bit at first when you see it. But then at the same time, the reason I'm not posting it is because I want to be charitable. And two, I don't have the time to do that.
When you think ahead in terms of like, the fact is that they're selling it because they need that money.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
exactly.
that means that it could be, maybe that they needed that to be able to feed their family. Maybe they just needed, it's just that at that time is what they needed. And the truth is, what they got from you made that possible.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So it was lifting them up.
Yeah.
Right? So I can understand where you'd feel sour.
At first, but then you take that and you kind of turn it into something better.
Yeah.
Something more appreciative. I've actually been doing that a lot since our last episode. It's like when something bad happens, I'm like, well, at least this something can come from it good. So that exercise actually was really good for me.
Yeah. There's a silver lining to every dark cloud.
Yeah. And that's charity.
That is charity, folks. Thank you so much for joining us as we did the building brick of charity. Now you know, rather than giving people a handout, give them a hand up. That's charity.
And the next episode, we'll talk about how to practice charity.
Yes, we're going to give you the how-tos of charity, which are going to be very effective so that you can be an even better giver.
Talk to you then.
See you then.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.